Welcome to our third and last oral history for the celebration of Lake Jackson's 70th anniversary. I've been so honored to be in charge of this program, and it's been a lot of fun, a lot of remembering and some of the good times and some of the bad times, but it's been great, and I'm excited about tonight. The Lake Jackson Fire Department is the oldest service organization in the city. There are other organizations that were formed just before them, but they are the oldest service organization. And tonight I have three speakers, and I'm going to say a few words right at the end. The first one is Andy Anderson. Andy joined the fire department in December of 1966. He's held the offices of second assistant, chief, captain, parliamentarian, and secretary-treasurer. He attended the Municipal Firefighter School at Texas A&M several times, and he taught there for 25 years. He also attended the Katy, Texas Extrication School and was an instructor there for about 20 years. And he taught basic EMT courses for about 25 years. And he is the state coordinator for EMT training. Andy is a Dow retiree. So now I'm going to let Andy talk.
Thank you. I'm debating on something in that should I wear my hat because of the glare, but I think I'll leave it off. Yeah, put on your sunglasses if you have to. Chief, would you hit the two outside switches on the lights? We'll get it out some way or another. All right, what we're going to talk about is a brief history of the fire department. This came out in 1942, that a model town was going to be built near Freeport for the Dow employees. 200 homes were going to be built, and construction will be underway for 800 homes right after that. Little town will have lights, it will have a fire department, and it will have parks in abundance. All right, expected to incorporate, and then a city hall will be built. The town will be named after the plantation, Lake Jackson. So we started there. December of 42, not very long. The first 200 homes will be ready in 5 days. And then there was the grocery store, the cafe, the filling station, and the elementary school are also about complete. All right, March the 4th, 1943. They had the first organizational meeting of the fire department. They tried putting things together. They started at about 8:15. Mr. Rawlins was the acting chairman. He passed out some information, made a couple of talks, and things going. And they decided to elect him as chairman and Mr. Allen for the secretary-treasurer. Okay, Mr. Owens and Mr. Scroggins were to form the Constitution and Bylaws Committee. They went to other departments, they got their Constitution and Bylaws, and they used that as a guide to put it together. Now, our Constitution and Bylaws are combined. Most organizations, they have a Constitution, they have a bylaw. The Constitution tells you what you're going to do, the bylaws tell you how you're going to do it. We combined ours into one document. Also, they elected someone for the Entertainment Committee. Now, we have a organization that we put together, and some way or another we're going to have to finance it. So they decided they would do that by having dances once a month, and that was how they financed the fire department. They had a general discussion on the subject of the officers and decided who's going to be in charge, and he concluded that the chief would be in charge of the drills and the fires, and he would appoint his captains as he saw fit. Wednesday night was going to be drill night from 7 to 8, and it has been that way ever since, except the times have changed. Now the state says we will have to meet for 2 hours. Okay, March 23rd, fire department was organized, and that was the chief. The city of Lake Jackson say, you'll see our date as March 23rd, 1943. The city incorporated April 28th, 1943. we let them join us. All right. These were the original members on the roll whenever they had their first meeting. After that, quite a few of them dropped out. We have a Pentagon walk out here in front. At the first part of that walk, you will see bricks with names on them. Those were our founding fathers. Those are the ones that started the fire department. The morning of March 23rd, 1943, Mr. Rollins drove a truck into the fire station. This was the first truck that the fire department ever had. It was a Seagraves. It was a Chevrolet, 1942 Chevrolet. It was built by the Seagraves pumper company. 500 gallons of water a minute. We still have that truck sitting out in the bay. It's still with us. It was called Chemical Truck 1. It was donated by Dow Chemical. Firefighters from Lake Jackson, Mr. Allen, Mr. Ormsby, attended A&M. This was in May. Now the school is in July, the last full week of July at A&M. That's when it's the hottest up there. So that's when we go to fire school. The 8th Amendment to the city charter, after they chartered 44 and 43, was to allow the city to accept outside gifts. And the city accepted some trucks from the Dow Chemical Company, pickup trucks, so they could pick up garbage and things like that. The 9th Amendment was passed so that the fire department could accept that fire truck. Of course, we'd had it for over a year, but we finally made it legal that we could keep that truck. September of 44, the insurance was lowered. Fire insurance was lowered in the city of Lake Jackson because of the fire department. This is going back a long way. Now we have insurance that's all one policy, covers everything. Back then, you bought fire insurance. Entertainment Committee. This is in May of 1945. Entertainment Committee reported that due to VE Day, there was a severe shortage of refreshments for the upcoming dance. Evidently, the breweries couldn't keep up with what was going on after VE Day. Special meeting of county commissioners about purchasing fire trucks for the rural area in the county. At the same time, a month later, Lake Jackson hosted all the fire departments to talk about forming an organization that all of them could exchange information with. And this is the Missouri County Firefighters and Fire Marshals Association. It is still in existence. The county vote came up on those fire trucks and it passed by a 6-to-1 margin. They wanted that. The trucks were going to be purchased later. Officers of the department in 1947, you'll notice that they have a president and a vice president, and they have a chief and the assistant chiefs. The reason being, they decided that they would let the president preside over the meetings and over other functions that the public was invited to or things like that. But when it came to a fire, the chief still had the authority. He was the final word on what took place at a fire. Gentleman's agreement. Now this one is one that cost me money. Gentleman's agreement, if you address someone as Mr. at a function of the fire department, it cost you a quarter. You had to pay that person a quarter. Later it was changed so you paid the department. And the price went up, it was $1. When I joined the fire department, there was a man in the department named John Alford. In high school, I dated his daughter. He was Mr. Alford, and it cost me money every time I turned around. Benefit for the department was held at Farrell's Grocery. How many of you remember Farrell's? So that's how long ago it was that they were still holding dances to pay for the department. $1.20 per couple, and that included the tax. So things have changed just a little bit. The first fire zone. The City Council passed a fire zone to make the downtown section of Lake Jackson Zone 1. In Zone 1, you have special building codes. You're restricted from doing certain things. You have to do other things. This is in case there is a fire in one store, it will not spread to the next, hopefully. And that's why we got this passed. Now, our station was still down on North Parking Place. They were adding to it, and they had to stop construction on it because the school was going to expand, and that would be in the way of the school expansion. So they changed their mind. All right, Lake Jackson Farms was starting to build up. FHA was financing it, and they had a 25% reduction in their fire insurance because of the fire department. First emergency car, 1951. We placed the first emergency car in service in the city of Lake Jackson. This was also the first volunteer ambulance service in the state of Texas. It gave us a little prestige in that respect. New fire station was built. It was down here in this corner. You can still see the slab sitting there. A lot of time the city uses it, or contractors use it to store equipment so they don't have to park out on the street and create problems that way. They still use, the station is still in use, believe it or not. 52, we bought a new truck. This was the fire department's first truck that they purchased. Now this was a 750 gallon a minute pumper. This was a monster compared to the old truck. The old truck, you could put 2.5 inch trucks, hoses off of it. This one you could put 3, and it would still supply the water. Petition to the city council banning the use of fireworks. The fire department put together, we the undersigned members of the volunteer fire department believe that the sale and shooting of fireworks within the city limits is a fire hazard and a safety hazard. No action was taken at that time. Now, there is an ordinance against fireworks within the city limits of Lake Jackson. 1953, Chevrolet came out with a Corvette. The original Corvette was an economy car. It had a 6-cylinder engine in it. Well, some of the guys says, okay, let's see if we can't do something. So they've got the Chevrolet Corvette engine and dropped it into that old fire truck. Now the old fire truck was a 1942 model. You guys that are mechanics will understand what I'm talking about. It had Babbitt bearings. It did not have an oil pump. So the oil was distributed by a slinger system on the crankshaft. Now, after a few hours of running, continuous running, 4 to 6 hours, which is not unusual for a fire, the Babbitt bearings would start wearing out and the engine would start sounding like it was coming apart, which it was. Now, with this engine put in there, we had roller bearings and we had an oil pump, so we could maintain oil pressure to keep the engine lubricated. It was a good move to do that. Pop Barra was appointed the first paid firefighter in the city of Lake Jackson, and the only one we've had in the city of Lake Jackson. He retired from that position in the early 60s. His job, he'd get a phone call. Okay, he'd write down the address on a board. He'd wait 5 minutes, then he would drive that truck to that address.